Hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Let's get started with our live class. I see we have about 7 or 8 people online. If you are if you are watching me on YouTube, then please come on over to espressoenglish.net/live so that you can join the chat, okay? And if you are watching this later, then sorry, there's no live chat, but you can, of course, learn from everything in the lesson. All right, so this is Saturday Q&A. Thank you for everyone who sent in a question ahead of time. I have a collection of questions here, and if you have more questions, please type them in the chat, or later you can leave a comment on YouTube. And if I don't answer them today, I will put them on my list for future lessons. Okay, so I'm going to wait just a couple minutes for more people to join us. In the meantime, why don't you say hello in the chat? Tell me where you're from. We have Katya from Rome, Rose from Russia, and I see a few more people starting to join the live chat, okay? Here's a question for you. Can you guess how many people visit the Espresso English website every month? Okay, type your answer in the chat. I'm curious to see if anyone has any idea how many people from all around the world visit the Espresso English website every month. Let's see what you have to say. I'll just wait just a minute. I think there's a small delay in the video. Hello, welcome. I see more people coming on. Great. Here where I am in the United States, it's 11 o'clock, but I'm sure we have students from all over the world joining us, so it might be sometime different in your time zone. Okay, so someone guessed 10,000 people per month visit Espresso English. It's higher than that, okay? Let's see if we have any more guesses. Ooh, wow, okay, I see a lot of people coming onto the chat. Hello, welcome. How many people do you think visit Espresso English every month? I'm going to tell you the answer in a moment, but I want to see what people think, if anyone can guess. Hello from Belgium. Hello. Nice to see you. All right. We've got 26 people online, and I'm sure we've got a few more watching on YouTube. 57 people watching on YouTube. That's great. No other guesses about how many people visit Espresso English every month? Don't be shy. Type your answer into the chat. Let's see. We've got Portugal. We've got Russia, 5 p.m., Vietnam. Okay, this is great. Okay, I won't keep you in suspense. I'm going to tell you the answer. Someone else guessed 400,000, 2 million. Okay, it's a little lower than 2 million. Let's see. Hello. All right, I'll tell you the answer. Every month, 600,000 people visit espressoenglish.net. I'm going to type that in the chat. That's 600,000 people every month. So that means every year there's more than 6 million people learning English from Espresso English. And that's amazing. That's more than the population of the city where I live. And it's incredible to think that, I can teach that many people, because when I was teaching in the classroom, I only had either private students or small groups. And of course, it's just not possible in the classroom to have so many people, because then the class is less effective. But teaching online like this through videos and online lessons, I can teach 6,000 of you every month. And so I'm so glad you are one of my students. Thank you for joining me today in the live class. If you're just coming on now, I want to say again, you can type your questions into the chat. And if I don't answer them today, because it's a lot of messages for me to look at, I will keep them in mind for a future lesson. Okay, who is ready to get started? Let me just pull up my notes here. Okay, I've got 5 or 6 questions that I'm going to answer and give you a little lesson, and I'm also going to ask you to put some of these things into practice, okay? So it's not enough to just watch me and kind of listen. You should try to practice what I'm teaching you, okay? So you can do that either in the chat or later. You can maybe write down your answers, but always try to put things into practice. Okay. So the first question, which was sent in on YouTube, was we have a number of words in English that end in ward, W-A-R-D. We have afterward, we have backward, toward, that's T-O-W-A-R-D. We have direction words like upward and downward, eastward, northward. And the person asked, well, sometimes I see these words with word at the end, like afterward, and sometimes I see them with an S, afterwards. What's the difference? Which one is correct? And I actually didn't know the answer to this one. I had to look it up. And it turns out that both versions are correct, okay? You can say afterward or afterwards, backward or backwards, toward or towards. Both are correct, both are common. It appears that in North America, so in the United States and Canada, it's a little more common to use it without the S, and then in other countries, in the UK and Australia and New Zealand, it's more common to use it with the S. But I know that here in the United States, I've seen and heard a mixture of both, okay? Afterward and afterwards. So both are equally correct, all right? I do want to say one thing about afterwards. You might be wondering, okay, well, when do I use afterward and when do I use simply after, okay? And I'm going to tell you about it right now. So after always needs something after it, okay? So you can't just say after. You have to say after the party or after work. Like, I like to go to the gym after work, or I'm going home after the party. You can also say after and then a subject and verb. So let's see, I'll call you after I get home. I'm trying to think of another example. After I take a shower, I blow dry my hair. Okay, the word after always needs something else after it, but the word afterwards doesn't. Afterwards can be used at the end of a sentence or alone at the beginning of a sentence with a comma. So you might say, I got home from work and I went out afterwards. Okay, so afterwards finishes the sentence. Don't say I went out after. Sometimes people say it, it's a little bit informal, but it's better to use afterward or afterwards. Or you can start the sentence. You can say, yesterday I went to see a movie. That's one sentence. Afterwards, I got some ice cream. Okay, so let's put this into practice. Tell me what you are going to do after this class. So someone wrote a great example. I'm going to watch your other videos after this stream. Okay, so tell me in the chat what you're going to do after this video is over. So after this video is over, I'm going to respond to some student emails. And then after that, I'll probably go out. Because it's Saturday and I do like to take some time off from Espresso English. You can say after that, okay? But you need to have some sort of word after the word after. I hope that's clear. And if you want to end the sentence, then use afterwards. Someone else wrote, I will continue my study after I watch your video. That's perfect. That's correct. I will listen to you attentively. Afterwards, I will sleep. Okay, good. You can say it like that. I would put a comma after afterwards. I'm going to drink coffee after watching you. Great. So after the word after, we can use the ing form of the verb. I'm going to drink coffee after watching you. Okay? All right, good job, everyone. Keep coming up with those examples. That's the way to really remember English vocabulary and English grammar, is to create your own examples. And if possible, check them with a native speaker, but it's better to write your own examples. That way the expressions will stay in your mind. All right, there's another little thing I want to clear up, and that has to do with time. AM and PM. So in some countries, they use 24-hour time. So in the afternoon, what we would call 3 p.m., they might write 1500 hours, 1500. But in the U.S., we more commonly use AM and PM. So AM is for the morning hours, and PM is for the afternoon and evening hours. So right now, it is about 11:11 a.m. That's 11:11 in the morning. But there's a little bit of confusion when it comes to the hours starting with 12. So 12 a.m., it looks like it's in the morning, so you might think that it's in the middle of the day, but 12 a.m. is actually midnight, okay? It's the middle of the night. So when we're coming up to the middle of the night, we have 11:58 p.m., 11:59 p.m., and then it changes to a.m., 12 a.m. So 12 a.m. is midnight, and 12 p.m. is midday, okay? So in about 45 minutes, it will be 12 p.m., midday. That's what starts the p.m. hours. Now, even native English speakers sometimes get confused with this. So often, instead of saying 12 a.m. and 12 p.m., we will say midnight for the middle of the night and noon, or midday, but I think noon is more common. That's N-O-O-N, for the middle of the day, okay? So let's put this one into practice. What were you doing yesterday at noon? So that's yesterday, midday. Use the past continuous. What were you doing yesterday at noon? I'll tell you what I was doing. I was preparing for this live class yesterday at noon. So let's see, what else were people doing yesterday at noon? My husband was working. Someone says, I was in deep slumber. That's another way to say sleeping very deeply, like nothing can wake you up. I was taking a nap, okay? Yes, I love taking naps. I don't get the chance very often. I was doing my homework, I was eating, I was watching Friends on Netflix. Okay, great. Yeah, good examples of using the past continuous for what you were doing yesterday at noon. I was doing some tests, I was watching the World Rowing Championship, I was having lunch, I was preparing lunch. Good examples. Oh, I'm so happy to see the participation. Okay, so speaking of sleeping, some people said they were sleeping. Another question that I received was about the difference between sleep and asleep. That's one word, A-S-L-E-E-P, and wake versus awake, okay? They're similar, but when do you use one and when do you use the other? The rule is really simple. Asleep and awake are both adjectives, and sleep and wake are both verbs. So how do we use these in practice? Well, with the adjectives asleep and awake, we use those with the verb to be. So we can say the baby is asleep, okay? The baby is asleep, so please be quiet. That's in the present. If the baby is not sleeping, then you can say the baby is awake, okay? The baby is asleep, the baby is awake. In the past, you can use was and were. So last night when you got home, I was still awake, or I was asleep. Okay, so with awake and asleep, these are adjectives, and you use them with the form of the verb to be. Now with sleep and wake, these are verbs just like any other verbs, so you can change their form. You can use them in the present continuous, in the past, in the future. So if the baby is asleep right now. Another way I can say that is the baby is sleeping, okay? That's using the verb in the present continuous. The baby is sleeping. Or last night, like some people said, last night I was sleeping. That's past continuous. We can also use these in the simple past. And these are both irregular. So the past tense of sleep is slept, okay? S-L-E-P-T. And you can see the pronunciation changes. Sleep, slept. So, for example, last night I slept for 8 hours. Wake is also irregular. Now, here's a small little difference, okay? So, asleep and sleeping are the same thing. Awake means the condition of being not sleeping, being awake, like we're all awake right now. But we don't usually use the verb wake by itself. We use wake up. That's a phrasal verb. And so in the past, that would be woke up, W-O-K-E. So yesterday, I woke up early. Yesterday, I woke up at 7 o'clock a.m. Today, I woke up at 8 a.m. So let's put this into practice. Tell me, okay, so someone asked, is it okay to say I was slept? No, that's not correct. So slept is simple past. You don't need was, were, is, nothing like that. So you can just say I slept in the past. You can say I was sleeping or I was asleep. Okay, you can use the continuous form or the adjective form, which is asleep. Okay, good. Example, I slept late yesterday. To sleep late means to sleep longer than normal. Another expression we use for that is to say sleep in. You can say I slept in yesterday. That's just another way of expressing the same thing. My son thought I was asleep and went out without permission. Okay, that's a funny example, but it's grammatically correct. I slept well last night. So that's a common question. Sometimes when you're visiting someone's house and you sleep there, they'll ask you, did you sleep well? And you can say, yes, I slept very well. The opposite would be badly. I slept badly. But it's probably good not to say that to your host if you're a guest because you don't want them to feel bad. You can say, I fell asleep. Okay, that's another great expression. To fall asleep refers to that moment when you start to sleep. Someone else slept in this morning. I had a sound sleep last night. Okay, great. A lot of other examples are coming up in the chat. So if you sleep soundly, that also means you sleep very well. Someone else asked, can we say rise or arise for waking up somebody? Not really. You can rise yourself. So you can say every morning I rise at 6 a.m. It's not really very common though. It's kind of, I don't know, maybe old-fashioned. Nowadays we usually say wake up. And of course you can wake somebody else up, like here's a great example. My brother, when he was a child, hated waking up for school. So my mom had to go into his room and wake him up by calling his name and come on, wake up. But you can't rise somebody else. You can't do it to somebody else. So use wake up because it's just much more common. You can also say get up, okay? It's slightly different. Wake up refers to that moment when your eyes open and you stop sleeping. Get up refers to the moment when you actually get out of bed. So some people wake up, but it takes them some time to actually get up and get out of bed. Let's see. Okay. Let's continue. I can't believe we've already been online for 20 minutes. I wanted to make this a 30-minute class, but it might go a little bit over. All right, the next question has to do with homework and housework. What's the difference? Homework refers to schoolwork that you do at home. So if you're in class, your teacher might give you homework and you take the homework home and you complete that assignment at home. And housework refers to the tasks that are necessary to take care of your house. And we usually use housework to refer to cooking and cleaning, okay? So homework is for school, housework is for the house. I'm curious, how many hours of homework do you do per week? And how many hours of housework do you do per week? You can type your answer into the chat. So answering for myself, I'm not taking any classes, so I don't do any homework, but I correct the homework for my students in my online courses. So I probably spend about 10 hours a week correcting student homework. As for housework, well, I live in a pretty small house. It only takes me a couple of hours a week to clean it, so I'm very lucky. I don't have a lot of housework, and my husband also helps with the housework. Someone asked if chores and housework are the same. Yeah, chores is another word we can use for those things that you have to do around the house. You probably don't really enjoy them, but they need to get done. And it's also common to talk about chores when you have a parent who makes their children help. So we say, you have to do your chores. You need to do those tasks around the house that you're responsible for, like cleaning up your room or maybe helping with the laundry. Okay, let's see. Some people say that they are doing their homework. Let's see, homework and housework. Someone says they're a housewife. That means she stays home and takes care of the house and works a lot for her family, so she always has houseworks to do. Here's an important point. Okay, homework and housework are both considered uncountable. So we always use them in the singular, always homework and housework, never homeworks and houseworks. Even when they refer to multiple tasks. So even if you have multiple assignments to do and multiple things to do in your house, it's still only homework and housework, okay? Not plural, singular. Chores can be singular or plural, okay? You can say, it's usually plural. We usually talk about chores we have to do, but you can say chore singular as well. So this thing about homework and housework always being singular also applies to the word work most of the time. So when you're talking about your work, things you have to do at your job, again, it's always singular. Don't say works. You can say tasks, you can say projects, you can say responsibilities, but work is always singular, even when it's talking about multiple things that you need to do. Now, there's one situation where work can be plural, and that's specifically when we're talking about works of art, works of music, sometimes works of literature. So when we're talking about that kind of artistic world, then sometimes we use works in the plural. This is one of Picasso's greatest works of art. There are many works of literature that talk about, pride. Okay, but in everyday life, when talking about the work you have to do, it's always work, singular. And same with homework and housework. All right, let's move on. Another request I got was to explain the preposition upon. Upon is spelled U-P-O-N. So upon is another word for on. So we can say the book is on the table or the book is upon the table. They're exactly the same. But upon is kind of an older word. Most people nowadays would say the book is on the table. It's just shorter, it's easier to say. So in everyday English, we prefer on instead of upon, even though they often mean the same thing. Now, there's another meaning for upon, and it actually means something like when or at the moment of. So you might see a sentence like, I smiled upon hearing the good news. So upon hearing the good news means at the moment of hearing the good news, or when I heard the good news. Now, it's a little more common to say I smiled when I heard the good news, but sometimes people use this structure, upon plus the ing form of the verb, to mean when it happened, at the moment that it happened. Another example would be, he greeted everyone upon arriving. Okay, upon arriving means when he arrived. This can also be used to start the sentence. Upon arriving, comma, he greeted everyone. Okay, so upon can mean on, but it's more common nowadays for it to be used with the verb in the ing form to mean when. Okay, getting back to the previous question, can we use housework for school? No, housework is only for the things you need to do in your house. Homework is for school. Speaking of prepositions, you got a request for into and onto. I think I have a lesson about this. Anyway, so in and on versus into and onto. In and on refer to the position of something. Into and onto refer to movement. Okay, so if I put my wallet into my bag, here's my bag, I put my wallet into my bag. Now my wallet is in my bag. Okay, so into refers to the movement of going in, and then in refers to its current position. And the same with on and onto. You could say, please put the pictures, well, no, that's not a good example. Please put the plates onto the table refers to that motion of putting it onto the table. And then after that, the plates would be on the table. Okay, that's their position. But now that I think about it, informally, a lot of people will say, please put the plates on the table. You can put your wallet in the bag. Yeah, okay. So in and on can refer to the position or the movement, but into and onto refer only to the movement of putting something into or putting something on a surface. Okay? I might write this up with some examples to be a little bit clearer, and I will post it on Espresso English. All right, let's keep going here. Here's a good question. What's the difference between the words problem, situation, issue, matter, conundrum, and trouble? So this is a common thing that English has a lot of words, and some of them are similar or even the same. And a lot of English learners, they'll see these different words and they'll think, well, are all of these exactly the same, or is there some small difference that I don't know about, like with in and into? When should I use them? So I'm going to answer that in just a moment. Okay, let me just get my notes back. Okay, problem. Let's start with problem. So again, our words are problem, situation, issue, matter, conundrum, and trouble. Okay, so a problem. A problem is something that is bad or wrong. It can be an obstacle. Like just right now, I had a little problem with my computer. It wasn't showing me my notes. A problem can be something physical, like you can say there's a problem with the engine in my car, so my car won't start. A problem can also be something in a relationship. She has some problems with her boyfriend. They don't agree about where they should live. A problem can be something not physical, but just, you know, it's a bad or wrong situation. There's a problem with education in this country, for example. So a problem, something that is bad or wrong. Now, situation, issue, and matter. These words all just mean a particular set of circumstances without implying that it's bad. So situations, issues, and matters can be neutral. They can be good. They can be bad. It doesn't specifically say it's bad. So what do you think about the issue of conserving the environment? Conserving the environment, that's a good thing. There's some debate about what the best way to do it is, but issue, just, it's neutral. It doesn't say it's good, doesn't say it's bad. However, these words, issue, situation, and matter are sometimes used in place of the word problem to make it seem like it's not so negative, okay? Like, let's say you are having some major problems with your coworker, that this person promises they'll get the work done on time and then they don't do the work, and it's really causing problems for your company. If you go to your boss, instead of saying, I have a problem with my coworker, that just sounds very negative because problem implies that something is bad or wrong. So a lot of times people will use situation, issue, or matter. So they might say, my coworker isn't getting the work done on time. What should I do about this issue or about this matter? Or this situation is making it difficult for me to finish my own work, okay? So situation, issue, and matter are all neutral, but sometimes people use them to be a little bit more diplomatic and not so negative by using the word problem. Next on the list, trouble. Trouble is it's often used for difficulty. So you might say, I'm having trouble understanding movies in English, or I had some trouble setting up my new camera because I didn't understand how it worked, okay? So trouble can be used for difficulty. Or trouble can be used often in the phrase in trouble to mean in a bad situation. So if you're a child and you don't do your chores, right, your housework, you might be in trouble with your parents, okay? There might be a punishment, or they might yell at you. There might be some negative consequence. Or if someone commits a crime, you could say they are in trouble with the police, okay? Let's put this into practice. Tell me about a time that you've been in trouble, okay? With your parents, with your at work, maybe with your boyfriend or girlfriend or husband or wife. What's a time you've been in trouble? Let me think of an example for me when I got in trouble. I was a good kid. I never got in trouble. No, that's not true. Okay, here's a time I got in trouble at school. We have here in the United States, we have some periods of the school day that are specifically for studying. So instead of watching a teacher, you're supposed to study. And it's supposed to be quiet. Well, me and my friends were talking during one of these study periods, and we got in trouble. So the teacher who was monitoring the study period told us to stop talking, and actually we got a punishment. We had to stay after school for some extra time and miss some of our other activities. All right, someone wrote, I am in trouble as I need to finish my thesis soon and I do not have enough time. That's definitely challenging. Good example of in trouble. Someone asked, can I say I have problems in my relationship? Yes, you can. Someone else had said, I had trouble with my car yesterday. Good. Let's see, more examples. Yes, there's a famous song, Bridge Over Troubled Water. Troubled water would mean water that is very agitated and possibly dangerous. I got in trouble once with my dad because I skipped school. Good example. I got in trouble about preparing meals, that should be meals plural, when I was just married. Okay, good examples, good examples. And then the last one is conundrum, and someone in the chat actually asked about concern as well. So I will talk about both of those. So a concern is just something that you are worried about. So in that situation with the bad coworker, you can say, my coworker's issue with deadlines is becoming a concern. Or it's more common to say, I'm concerned about. That means I'm worried about this situation. Conundrum is not a very common word, but I think it's an interesting one. A conundrum is a problem that's especially difficult or maybe even impossible to solve because it has some contradictions, some things that go against each other. Like right now in the US, our government has a conundrum regarding healthcare because it's becoming very expensive, but not enough people have access to it. So how can we make sure everyone has access to healthcare but not make it very expensive? This is a conundrum because it's a difficult, maybe even impossible problem to solve, okay? All right, so related to that, in that same, how do you write conundrum? C-O-N-U-N-D-R-U-M. I just wrote it in the chat. Okay. In that same theme of words that are similar but a little bit different, someone asked about the following 4 phrasal verbs: flip out, freak out, piss off, and tick off. Okay, so those are 4 phrasal verbs. She said, are they all the same? Are they all appropriate to use? These are 2 really good questions, so I'm going to explain that right now. So piss off and tick off refer to getting angry, and it's most common to use these in the adjective form. So to say I'm pissed off or I'm ticked off, both of those mean I'm angry, okay? Now, I'm glad she asked about what's appropriate because piss off is a little bit, or pissed off, it's a little bit vulgar. It's a little bit inappropriate. So don't say that at work, okay? At work, you could say I'm ticked off, but don't say I'm pissed off, okay? I'm pissed off, you would say it with friends or with family, okay? I'm pissed off and I'm ticked off both mean angry. So let's put it into practice. When was the last time you were pissed off or ticked off? So you should start your answer with I was pissed off, or if you want to be a little more decent, I was ticked off when, and then explain the situation. I'll give you a really good example from my own life. I was really ticked off when I spent 4 hours filming some videos for Espresso English, and then when I went to look at the videos, the quality was not great, so because of some settings on my camera, so I had to do them all over again, 4 more hours, and I was really ticked off. Let's see some answers. We often hear pissed off in movies. Yes, it's true. Can pissed off also mean drunk? Maybe. I don't know. There are other expressions that we tend to use for drunk. We tend to use wasted, plastered. There's a lot of slang expressions for drunk. I will research that a little bit. Okay, can you write the expression? So pissed off and ticked off. Oops. Okay. Remember, you need to say, I was pissed off, okay? I was pissed off when my professor told me the results I got are not good. Okay, good example. Angry about not getting a good result in a course or on a test. Yeah, you can say, I was pissed off, or I got pissed off, or I got ticked off. That's a little more informal to use got. Let's see some more answers. Anyone else have a situation where they were pissed off or ticked off? Angry. I was really very ticked off when I knew my daughter smoked her first cigarette. Great example. I can understand why you would be angry. Yeah, ticked off means very angry. Yeah. Okay, so pissed off and ticked off. They both mean angry. And the other 2 phrasal verbs I mentioned were flip out and freak out. Now, both of these, flip out and freak out, they're the same. They mean to become very agitated, upset, or emotional. Now, this could be anger, or it could be another emotion. Like a good example would be if a mother was in a public place with her little girl and the little girl became separated from her mother, the mother would freak out, right? She would become very agitated trying to find her daughter because her daughter's lost and it might be dangerous, okay? The mother freaked out when she lost her little girl in the crowd. So she's not necessarily angry, but she's very upset. She's very agitated. She's very emotional, okay? Now, sometimes it can mean anger, okay? You could say, I flipped out when another driver hit my car and damaged it. So that could mean I became very upset. It could also mean I'm angry at the other driver who was not very careful and damaged my car. So flip out and freak out, they could mean anger, but they just mean a very it could be excited, a very agitated emotional state. So tell me about the last time you flipped out or freaked out. Let me think of one from my own life. Let's see. Okay, I flipped out a little bit when my husband had car trouble and I was in another country, so I couldn't help him. It was a little bit stressful because it happened on a Sunday and we only have one car and he needed to go to work the next day. So I freaked out a little bit. I had to call the mechanic from the other country and make sure he was able to get the car in to be fixed. Luckily, it all turned out okay, but we were a little bit agitated. We flipped out a little bit. Let's see if we've got some answers in the chat. I think there's a little bit of a delay, so I'll wait. When was the last time you flipped out or freaked out? Or maybe you saw someone else flip out or freak out. If you're a calm person, then you don't flip out very much. Oh, no one wants to use flip out and freak out. Okay, good. Here's an example. I attended an interview in the past. I forgot my documents in the restroom. Okay, you don't need the word very. I was freaking out. Okay, so you can use it in the past continuous. I was freaking out when I left my documents in the restroom and I had this important interview. Great example. So yeah, flip out and freak out, we tend to use these as verbs. I was freaking out or I freaked out. And piss off and tick off, we tend to use these as adjectives by saying someone is pissed off or was ticked off. But you can also use piss off and tick off as verbs. So someone asked, can you say don't piss me off? Yeah, you can say that. That means don't make me angry. Or you could say, the bad customer service really ticked me off. Okay, so two different ways to use piss off and tick off: as an adjective describing yourself or someone else, or as a verb. It pissed me off. The situation ticked me off. Okay? Someone wrote, my battery is in a dangerous low level, so I'm flipping out. Yes, a lot of people flip out when their cell phone or computer batteries get really low, and maybe they're going to need to use it very shortly. Good examples, everyone. I'm really proud of you, seeing everyone put this English into practice immediately. If you didn't have time to think of a good example, you can watch this lesson again later. I am recording it, and then the recording, it's going to be available in two places. It will be on my YouTube channel, and it will also be on this page, espressoenglish.net/live, for the next week, okay? So I'm going to start wrapping up. That means I'm going to start finishing. But again, I will go back and read through the chat for any additional questions. And if there are some good ones that I can talk about in the next lesson, I will do that. So our next live lesson, I'm not sure yet. It will be next weekend. I'm just not sure exactly which day or which time. It's going to depend on my schedule. So make sure that you are following me on Facebook. Just search for Espresso English, and on YouTube. And I will announce maybe in the middle of the week, Wednesday or Thursday, I will announce the time and day of the next class. So I want to ask you, did you enjoy today's live class? Type your answer in the chat. Someone in the very beginning said that it's their first time watching me live and it's amazing, so I was really happy to see that. Someone asked for the link of my Facebook. It's facebook.com/espressoenglishnet. Okay? Someone said, yes, I did. That's wonderful. And on YouTube, I am youtube.com/espressoenglishnet. Okay, on YouTube you can review a lot of my past lessons. There are more than 200 videos there, so if you want some extra practice during the week, you can go back and watch those lessons. I'm very happy spending my time with you. Thank you. I follow you on Spotify. You are a great teacher. This is my first time. Thank you so much. It makes me so happy to see all of your wonderful comments, and I'm really glad that you took the time to join me today. If you liked this lesson, I would appreciate it if you could share it, because even though 600,000 people visit Espresso English every month, I always want to reach more students and help more students. So if you found this lesson useful, please share it. All right, thank you everybody for coming today. It was really a pleasure to teach you and interact with you. And I will also send out the recording of this lesson by email. So make sure you're receiving my emails or you're connected with me on Facebook and YouTube, because you will be able to watch the recording. Thank you everybody. Bye-bye.